Hi, girls and boys. Let's understand what macronutrients are. So, what are nutrients? Nutrients are chemical components of food that supply nourishment to the body. These are environmental substances used for energy, growth, and bodily functions by organisms. Depending on the nutrient, these substances are needed in small amounts or large amounts. Nutrients, those are needed in large amounts, are called macronutrients. So, we are basically going to learn about macronutrients in this video. And these are divided into three parts. They are of three kinds: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So, carbohydrates, as we all know that energy must be supplied regularly to individuals through the diet, and this is very much important for the survival and maintenance of life and to carry out all activities jointly termed as work. So whatever work we do, we need to have some kind of energy for that. So our body derives energy from catabolism of energy yielding nutrients, carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. So among these, carbohydrates are the single most abundant source of dietary energy, comprising of 50 to 70% of the total energy intake in the different populations. A carbohydrate is a chemical compound made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The basic unit of carbohydrate is monosaccharide. Basically, the basic unit is monosaccharide. So, which consists of series of carbon atoms linked together in a chain attached with oxygen and hydrogen atoms. Its formula is C6H12O6. Glucose is a monosaccharide and is most commonly sugar, which is used to store and release energy. So, a kind of monosaccharide is glucose, which is sugar is the main for the common form of it, and which is used in body, and it is stored in body, and it is released also in the form of energy. In monosaccharides, we have 3, 4, 5, and 6 carbon unit sugars called trioses, tetroses, pentoses, and hexoses respectively. Glucose, fructose, galactose, arabinose, ribose are examples of this class. Glucose is the sugar which is necessary for all the body systems. It is abundantly found in nature. Fructose is the fruit sugar found in honey and fruits, and galactose commonly occurs as part of disaccharide lactose. In disaccharides, when two molecules of monosaccharides combined with removal of one molecule of water, disaccharides are basically formed. Like C6H12O6, when reacts with C6H12O6, where one is glucose and one is fructose, it becomes sucrose. So it will be C12H12O11 plus water, H2O. So water is removed in this case. So when we combine glucose with fructose, so we get sucrose. Sucrose is found in almost all plants, sugarcane and beet being the rich source. Maltose and malt sugar is found in all sprouted and malted products. It is produced when starch is digested by amylase. Sprouted cereals and beer contain large amount of maltose. Lactose is found predominantly in milk. It helps to absorb the calcium present in large amounts in milk. Polysaccharides are complex compounds with high molecular weight. When more than two monosaccharides units join together, creating a long chain, polysaccharides are formed. So, the polysaccharides are like starch, glycogen, cellulose and hemicellulose, and pectin. Starch is stored, or its storage form of carbohydrates in plants. For example, cereals, grains, seeds, roots, or tubers such as potatoes. It is the primary source of energy in the diet. Then we come to glycogen. It is the storage form of carbohydrates in humans and animals. It's mainly stored in liver and muscles. Liver glycogen responds to blood glucose levels. That is, when blood glucose levels are low, liver glycogen is broken down to glucose, causing an increase in blood glucose levels. Muscle glycogen can be broken down for energy for the muscles. We have cellulose and hemicellulose, which are abundantly found in nature in seed coats, skins of fruits, and as a structural part of all plants. They are important for nutrition since they make up a large proportion of dietary fiber. They are indigestible by human digestive system. They mainly help in increasing the bulk of intestinal contents and thus help in motions. Then we have pectin, which is mainly found in fruits. These are also indigestible carbohydrates. So what are the food sources of carbohydrates? Plant source. So cereals like rice, wheat, corn, bajra, jowar and ragi. Vegetables, roots and tubers such as potato, sweet potato, yam, carrot, beetroot. Fruits like banana, mango, chiku, grapes, custard apple. Then sweets, all sweets, bakery and confectionery items, cake, pastries, etc. Then animal sources, there are no important animal sources of carbohydrates except milk, which supplies lactose. Now coming to glycemic index part, it mainly classifies the effects of carbohydrate containing foods on blood glucose levels. It's mostly helpful for diabetics. So definition of glycemic index is, it refers to the measured upward rise, peaks and falls of blood glucose following consumption of high carbohydrate food. It mainly ranks food according to blood glucose levels. For example, high GI foods, white bread, rice, sweet, sugar, bakery products. Then low GI foods are like vegetables, whole cereals and pulses, etc. So what's the significance of glycemic index in especially chronic diseases? In addition to help in planning diets for diabetics, there are several health benefits of low GI diets. It mainly includes reduced insulin demand, improved blood glucose control and reduced lipid levels. All these factors play an important role in the prevention and management of chronic diseases including diabetes, coronary heart diseases and certain cancers. So studies have suggested that low GI diet may reduce the risk of coronary heart disease, maybe due to improvement in blood lipid profile. Low GI foods have greater satiety than high GI foods, which is mainly helpful in prevention and management of obesity, which is a risk factor for many diseases. Dietary fiber is a term which is collectively given to indigestible carbohydrates in plant foods. It's not a nutrition since it's not digested by human digestive system, but it is very important as any nutrient because it has a very important role in various aspects of gastrointestinal function and prevention and management of variety of diseases. So it's very important. Dietary fiber is mainly classified as IDF and SDF. IDF is insoluble dietary fiber and SDF is soluble dietary fiber. So what is IDF? Insoluble dietary fiber, which are insoluble in water and non-fermentable and are structural part of plants, that is cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin. And soluble dietary fibers are soluble in water and fermentable and are mostly viscous in nature. Viscous means thick, it's not very flowy, it's little thick, like pectin, gums, mucilage. So like we have gum, goond jisko bolte hain, so it's just like that, it is little viscous in nature. So we have insoluble dietary fiber and soluble dietary fiber. Dietary fiber is very important in normalizing the bowel movements. So it increases the weight and size of your stool and softens it. A bulky stool is easier to pass, decreasing your chance of constipation. If you have loose watery stools, particularly soluble fiber may help to solidify the stool because it absorbs water and adds bulk to stool. Fiber also helps maintaining bowel health. A high fiber diet may lower the risk of developing hemorrhoids and small pouches in your colon, which is called diverticular disease. So it is really helpful. Dietary fiber also lowers cholesterol levels. Soluble fiber found in beans, oats, flax seeds and oat bran may help lower total blood cholesterol levels by lowering low density lipoprotein or bad cholesterol levels. They mainly interfere with the absorption and recirculation of bile acids and cholesterol. Soluble fiber has the ability to bind with cholesterol and it is excreted from the body with it. Studies have also shown that high fiber foods may have other heart health benefits such as reducing blood pressure, etc. Dietary fiber helps control blood sugar levels. In people with diabetes, fiber, particularly soluble fiber, can slow the absorption of sugar and help improve blood sugar levels. Commonly high fiber foods such as with low glycemic index, therefore their consumption do not increase blood sugar levels. A healthy diet that includes insoluble fiber may also reduce the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So therefore it is mostly prescribed by the doctors that people should have mostly millets, and not because when you take rice and wheat they increase the level of glucose all of a sudden in the blood, but when you take millets the rise in glucose is very slow, and that helps in diabetes. It also aids in achieving healthy weight. High fiber foods tend to be more filling than low fiber foods, so you're likely to eat less and stay satisfied longer. And high fiber foods tend to take longer to eat and to be less energy dense, which means they have fewer calories for the same amount of food you eat. It also protects against colon cancer because fiber binds potential carcinogens which help in protection against cancer. They also absorb the bile acids, therefore reducing the risk, as high bile acid concentrations are associated with increased risk of colon cancer. So what are the sources of dietary fiber? Whole cereals and its products like whole wheat flour, wheat germ, wheat bran, rice bran, oats or oat bran, whole pulses and legumes, fruits like apples, banana, pear, oranges, strawberry, guava, all leafy vegetables and other vegetables such as carrot, potato, sweet potato, they all are good sources of dietary fiber. Let's see how the digestion and absorption of carbohydrates takes place. Around 60 to 70% of energy from our diet is supplied mainly by carbohydrates, which are primarily present in polysaccharides, that is in the form of starch, followed by disaccharides and free monosaccharides, which are present in very small amount. To be absorbed from the gut, these carbohydrates must be broken down to their constituent monosaccharides, and there is a process for that. So let's see how it happens. So carbohydrate digestion begins in the mouth. The salivary glands in the mouth secrete saliva, which helps to moisten the food. The food is then chewed while the salivary glands also release enzyme called amylase, which begins the process of breaking down the polysaccharides in the carbohydrates. So first the process of breaking down of polysaccharides takes place in the mouth. So after that the carbohydrate food is chewed into smaller pieces and mixed with salivary amylase and other salivary juices. It is swallowed and passed through the esophagus. The mixture enters the stomach where it is known as chyme. Now we come to the position where the food has come to the stomach and it is known as chyme. There is no further digestion of chyme as the stomach produces acid which destroys bacteria in the food and stops the action of the salivary amylase. After that, in the pancreas and small intestine, how it happens? After being in the stomach, the chyme enters the beginning portion of the small intestine or the duodenum. In response to chyme being in the duodenum, the pancreas releases the enzyme pancreatic amylase, which breaks the polysaccharides down into disaccharides, a chain of only two sugar linked together. The small intestine then produces enzymes called lactase, sucrase and maltase, which break down the disaccharides into monosaccharides. The monosaccharides are single sugars that are then absorbed in the small intestine, and this is how it happens. Left with carbohydrates that are not digested and absorbed by the small intestine reach the colon where they are partly broken down by intestinal bacteria. Fiber, which cannot be digested like other carbohydrates, is excreted with feces or partly digested by intestinal bacteria.